Let's go ahead and take a sip. Mmm. Yummy, yummy. Oh, my hat. Oh, almost forgot it. Ooh, welcome on back, everyone, to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on the video, for showing up, stopping by, coming on in. Hope you're having a beautiful one out there. Let me take my phone out and put it on Do Not Disturb. Today, we are jumping into head first into a full album listen. Today we are listening to Joy Division. We're listening to their second and final studio album, Closer, or Closer, depending on your pronunciation, released in 1980. So as always, first of all, thank you all so much for stopping by. Just walked in, just kind of getting the lighting set up. Close enough. Anyways, we're doing this because you guys have suggested it. You guys had recommended it. And amongst those of you who had suggested this particular album are the following. Rob Fractal. AK, I don't know if you recommended this album, but you've definitely mentioned it before. Bowsaw. Sam Stevenson. I see that you've recommended and suggested this album quite a few times. Ariadne, JC, you had said that this is, if not your favorite album, one of them. So thank you as well. Ebo Thrasher. JPSK Hale, Sharik or Shirk, Rydell Downward, Pep or Pep I, Alex, Scott French, not to be confused with Scott Italian, Chris Carkeets, Luciano Texera, Marcel Troa, Sag NYC, Caden Richards. This list actually goes on quite a bit. 3 years ago, Music Druk, Manny Calavera, Jean-Christophe, don't know what the last part says, Spot Teach voiceover, Ariadne 4 years ago. And the list goes on from there. Brian R., Harry Palamalki. I could just keep on going, but you're not here to listen to names. Well, some of you maybe, but you're not here to listen to names, you're here to listen to music. So, without further ado, well, okay, a little bit of further ado, press the like button if you don't mind, get it out the way. Second of all, if you're not familiar, my name's JP. It's the name of the channel. And my goal is just for you to just sit here, relax, enjoy yourself, grab a beverage of some sort, grab a snack, even though I'm grabbing a second beverage of some sort, and just relax and listen to the music with me, whether it's your first time hearing it like myself, or whether it's your not first time hearing it. Looking at the track listing, none of the tracks here look familiar, at least title-wise. So there's that. I do know that Ian Curtis had had killed himself either sometime around this album, before or after, not quite sure, but I know that that's part of it. We've listened to their previous album, their first album already on the channel. And just because I'm looking, I think the album artwork, come up here with me. Before we even dive into the music, I think the album artwork is really, really cool. And I would like to know what that is. Or like where it's from. Because it has to be. There you go. Album cover was designed by Martin Atkins and Peter Seville, with a photograph of the Appiani family tomb in Genoa's monumental cemetery in Staglieno, adorning much of the sleeve. The photo was taken in 1978 in a documentary. Seville commented that he, upon learning of singer Ian Curtis's suicide, expressed immediate concern over the album's design, as it depicted a funeral theme, remarking, "We've got a tomb on the cover of the album." That is quite interesting. So it's a picture of the family tomb from the Appiani family. Now, I have the question of why use this particular tomb and this particular photograph? Is there a reason? Or were they just attracted to the actual artistry of it? Or is there a specific reason for it? Either way, really, really beautiful sculpture tomb. I look at the details. Like, okay, I know this is an album reaction and I'm kind of like going off to the side, but like I said, you're here to relax. So you're here to spend some time with me. The way that they get the folds of clothes in stone, and so many times, like, that is such an interesting technique. Truly, if I really wanted to, I would love to try and find a video of how they create the folds of clothes in sculptures and that kind of thing, but I don't want to waste too much time, especially at the beginning. A lot of people may already be clicking off before they're like, I said without further ado, and we are almost 5 minutes into Much Ado. So let me just let's just not do that right now. Maybe we'll save it till later. Let's get into the album. first track, I apologize. Atrocity Exhibition, which sounds really cool. Like the title sounds cool, it doesn't sound cool. Actually sounds pretty bad. And as always, my friends, I'm so sorry for the long lead up. Oh, I forgot. I got a plug. Patreon, $2 a month. You don't have to, but you can. Without further ado, as always, let's get into the album with this first one. And this first sip of this freshly brewed coffee with just a little half and half, fat free, is to you.
Where people get paid to see inside to his life, but the sickness is drowned by Christ.
Just bass and drums. Okay, before we get into the next track, there's a lot for me to like take in on this one. And before I dive into any of the musical aspects, I want to, and actually, I feel like I have to talk about the lyrics first. So come up here with me, okay? Because we're talking about this atrocity exhibition. We're talking about, let's just say, a museum of atrocities and of bad things. Or we're talking about some sort of gladiatorial arena. Or we're talking about something completely different. We're talking about a lot of things, but I think the music so perfectly captures the lyrics and the story, the possible story that's being built here, or the theme, I should say. Asylums with doors wide open, where people had paid to see inside. For entertainment, they watch his body twist. Behind his eyes, he says, "I still exist." So it's almost this voyeuristic kind of aspect that we're talking about, where people are paying to see inside this atrocity exhibition, and in this particular one, to watch his body twist, to watch someone being tortured. We've seen that and heard about that in movies like, I think Hostel is one, Squid Games to an extent. Like, this is a theme that has, come up before. And I love the line that says, behind his eyes, he says, "I still exist." While he's enduring this dehumanization, he's still holding on and he's still saying, "I still exist. I'm still a human." First of all, I just think that that's very powerful, okay? Now, the way that Curtis sings repeatedly, this is the way Step Inside. Acting as the showman, acting as the MC, that's what it's called, right? Or like the person that's the ringleader, or whatever that's called. Like the person bringing the crowd in, like, come on, come in, come see. Come on, come all, come see the blah, 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 right? The way that Ian Curtis is singing here, there's a sort of monotony and an apathetic energy to him. A lack of energy, some would say. And typically someone in that role of a ringleader or the salesman, whatever it may, like, they're charismatic, they're eccentric. Come on in, come inside, come see the flying monkeys, come see the Wicked Witch of the West. Like, I know why that's the thing. Like, come see, But he's singing it completely different. Numb. This is the way, step inside. Like, almost like totally not caring. And that matches so well with what the people are going in to see. There's this, like, there's no charisma. There's no joy to be had out of this. This is just going in to watch these atrocities happening or have happened. And it has this wash of dystopia to it. It's very reminiscent to me of the lyrics from ELP and Carnival. Like this circus of... I was trying to think of like another C word to get some alliteration in there. This circus of chaos. And I just think that that's so cool. Now, before we dive into the next lyrics, the guitar. Who's the guitarist? Bernard? Is Bernard the guitarist? I don't remember all the members, to be honest. Oh, but I remember Bernard. Got it. Okay. Oh, even though it says all except 1 and 2. Okay. 1 and 6. Okay, either way. As they're going into this exhibition, even though the first line, of course, talks about a person in this exhibition, or in this exhibit, the sounds that he's coming up with through his guitar are like creatures, are like animals snarling in the dark. And I'm just imagining, as these onlookers are being led through the halls towards the exhibit, they're kind of hearing the screams of the tortured, the cries for help out in the dark from exhibits and rooms that they haven't yet gotten to. That's what the guitar sounds like to me. So it's just building up this weird sort of paranoia and this kind of negative excitement as well. It's just really interesting how that's all built up. And the drums performed by, listen, I got to use the name, I got to look for now because I don't know the band members besides Ian for the most part. Stephen Morris, okay? Stephen Morris, the way that his drums are played from the very beginning, and throughout, but that almost exotic kind of swing, dum 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 dum, like to me, it just once again reinforces that idea of a carnival of horrors or something like that. You know, there's movement, there's drive, but to what end? In arenas, he kills for a prize, wins a minute to add to his life, but the sickness is drowned by cries for more. Pray to God, make it quick, watch him fall. Of course, this could reference anything of a gladiatorial nature, but it doesn't even have to. This could just really be anything related, you know? What is he killing? Is he killing other prisoners or whatever it is, like other people in this exhibit? Or is he killing animals? Like, what is it? But it only adds a minute to his life. This is the way step inside. You'll see the horrors of a faraway place. Meet the architects of law face to face. See mass murder on a scale you've never seen, and all the ones who try hard to succeed. I picked up on the whims of 1,000 or more, still pursuing the path that's been burned for years. All the dead wood from jungles and cities on fire. Can't replace or relate, can't release or repair. Take my hand and I'll show you what was and will be. Okay, so all of this takes this little exhibit and puts it on a grander scale. Because, let's be honest, could he be talking about Atrocity Exhibition? Could that exhibition be the world as it is right now? Or was, and still is, you know? Could the atrocities that we see on media, like, is in a way, they are exhibitions, right? I think that might be kind of what he's hinting to in certain ways when he kind of, you know, takes the last two verses and kind of expands the concept of it. And of course, you see more dystopian ideas here as well. And I like the idea or the line, take my hand and I'll show you what was and will be. As in these mistakes, this history, as they say, is doomed to be repeated, basically. Now, just on another level as well, not that I necessarily saw anything that specifically went to this idea. I should bring you guys full screen so I can see. Not that I saw anything specifically that led to this idea, but when I saw the song title and as we were going through the lyrics, you know, Atrocity Exhibition, one of the first things that it made me think of was the Holocaust and after World War II, when, you know, the camps were being, soldiers would go to the camps and see what had been happening and see what had been taking place and seeing these atrocities, you know? That was just like kind of where my mind went to an extent. Okay, I guess I could have kept you here the whole time. Now, there is a Wikipedia article for this track, so let's take a look at it here. Let's see. The song title is inspired by the 1970 J.G. Ballard collection of condensed novels of the same name. Let's see. Writing, recording. Featuring as with it was written by jamming in their practice room. Hook and Sumner swapped instruments when writing and recording the track. Says they were bored writing on our instruments, so we just thought, let's swap. I like that. I was nowhere as proficient as a guitarist as him, but I like the way it sounds. Great riff, great bass too. You know, it actually, I think, worked out very well, especially for the theme and the lyrics. Hannett's production has been highly praised. However, as with their debut album, both Hook and Sumner are unhappy with the production. Hook said the track was mixed on one of his days off, and when he heard the final product, he was disappointed that the abrasiveness of his guitar part had been laden with effects and toned down. He wrote, I was like head in hands. Oh, hell. It's happening again. Unknown Pleasures #2. He said, great. You messed up the first time. You didn't give us what we wanted, and you're messing it up again. Made it sound like someone strangling a cat, and to my mind, absolutely killed the song. I was so annoyed with him and went in and gave him a piece of my mind. But he turned around and just told me,
watch your profanity.
And
you lose. Good day, sir.
Said, get out of here. Get out of here. And that's kind of cool. The track, especially Morris's tribal drum pattern, seems influenced by krautrock band Can. It's kind of interesting. I guess I could see it, but it just seems like a relatively normal kind of tribal drum pattern with the toms and everything. I do like those little extra bits of percussion that kind of come in throughout in different parts, though. Kind of adds this oh, what's next, you know? They add one random sound and it comes in again later on. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on into the next track here. Let me pull that up for us. That is going to be Isolation. Here we go. Hold on. Here we go.
Surrendered to self-preservation from others who care. I'm ashamed of the things I've been put through. I'm ashamed of the person I am. Isolation.
Okay, little post-punk Billie Jean. Okay, hold on. I was trying to go back really quick. There we go. Isolation. Okay, that was like, all right. I kind of expected tonally the album to kind of fit into Atrocity Exhibition, but this immediately like set us up into an upbeat kind of role, which at least on the intro, the next song as well, Passover, it seems to be continuing that idea, which is kind of interesting. This track, definitely you could see where New Order was coming in after this. Like, this sounds very New Order to me. Obviously with the inclusion of the electronics and the synths and stuff, but even just the drum beat and the electronic influences, how they go. And the actual melody, that dun, 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 that reminded me a lot of Kraftwerk. So maybe it's because I just saw it, you know, when we were reading the Wikipedia article for the previous song. But that, I hear kind of that krautrock kind of influence in there. Obviously not exactly the same, but you know, I do hear it in there. I like how the bass line pushes everything along with nice movement, nice depth. As we've heard, you know, from Joy Division countless times before. That's just their style and how they do it. And I like that, you know. And I forgot to mention this. I thought about it again during the listen for this song. Sometimes when I'm listening to songs, I think of things, but I don't want to say too much. I don't want to like over talk too much. So I forget to mention things that I think of during tracks. But just to really quickly backtrack to Atrocity, the atmosphere of it all and the emptiness of it, it reminded me of like Talk in their later days because of the way that they also build upon emptiness and space. Obviously not to the exact same effect, but Atrocity felt like dark Talk. like the opposite, like the negative Talk, where it's like a little darker and obviously, you know, in a different way. I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, that was just my thought. My mind went, but anyways. And then in this song, production-wise, I think it's interesting how it almost sounds like almost every instrument is recorded in a different room or a different way. Curtis's vocals sound like so far away and in a different context than the main groove of the drums and the bass. And then at the second half of the song, when the drums come in a little bit differently, the pattern changes just slightly, it like feels like a different place again. So it's kind of interesting, like, at least on this song, I'm hearing this kind of production difference in just all the instruments and all the layers there. I guess in a way, could say they're a little bit isolated. In Fear Every... I'll give it to you.
Please clap.
In fear every day, every evening, he calls her aloud from above. Listen, or carefully watched for a reason, painstaking devotion and love. Surrender to self-preservation from others who care for themselves. A blindness that touches perfection, but hurts like anything else. So isolation, surrender to self-preservation from others who care for themselves. I'm just reading so I'm trying to figure it out. Mother, I tried, please believe me. I'm doing the best that I can. I'm ashamed of the things I've been put through. I'm ashamed of the person I am. But if you could just see the beauty, these things I could never describe. These pleasures are wayward distraction. This is my one lucky prize. I feel like he's talking about a person that he wants to be in love with, but for whatever reason holds himself back. Like, he says every evening he calls her aloud from above, carefully watch for a reason, painstaking. Like, he wants to be devoted to this person. I'm just thinking romantic love. But then he surrenders, not to love and to the pursuit of this person, but he surrenders to self-preservation from others who care for themselves. He's protecting himself from others and from being hurt by others. And then he says, I tried, I'm doing the best I can. I'm ashamed of the person that I am. I'm ashamed of the things I've been put through. This makes me think of abuse. Like, when you say I'm ashamed of the things I've been put through, you're not ashamed of the things you've done or actions that were in your control. You're ashamed of what you've been put through and the person that you are. So I read that as abuse in whatever aspect that is. But that's just how I read it. But if you could see the beauty, these things I could never describe, these pleasures are a wayward distraction. This is my one lucky prize, isolation. So he's like, I'm not going to, even though I wanted to for a brief moment, I'm not going to pursue these other things, even if they're good things, even if they're positive things. My one lucky prize is isolation. It's kind of sad, huh? If I'm kind of getting it. Let's see. The song is based on electronic drum beats, accompanied by a thin trebly keyboard part. Trebly, what is that word? Treble, okay. Trebly, that's the me. Midway through the song, a rushing drum and hi-hat motif coming in. That's cool. Yeah, we heard it. Let's see. It is written in time signature consign. I don't care about major this and minor that. I just want the interesting stuff. Peter Hook said the ending came as a serendipitous result of Martin Hannett's efforts to rescue the original master tape from a botched edit by a junior sound engineer. So, could that also be part of why the production sounds so different? Because he had to rescue the original tape? Possibly. I guess it could definitely. I mean, it makes sense to me the way I'm reading that, you know? All right, let's move on into the next track. I like the outro of this one, how it rushed out, then it came back in. So let's see how that moves into the next track, which is Passover. Hold on, I'm just going to do that ending again. It's a weird thing to do. That's the sound. See?
The protection and infancy's garb, it all falls apart at first.
Sounds tabla-esque. And just that snare just echoes into the darkness. I like how these songs don't have long fade outs. I like how it kind of snappily ends and moves into the next track. Okay, Passover. There's no bass really present in here, unless I'm mistaken. I think that it might be the bass quickly going boom, but at other points, it could also be like another drum or something percussive, like a tabla or something like that, because it sounds like it. So I'm not exactly sure what it is, even though I'm leaning towards it being both. I think the bass quickly comes in and continues boom, like just a quick one. And then sometimes there's another drum of sorts that's being played here. Really like the guitar riff. I'm so sorry. I really like the guitar riff from Summoner and how it's like a riff with a bite. Like that. There's kind of like a menace to it. But in the first part, it kind of starts off back here. And then as it keeps coming back, it kind of comes a little bit more to the front without, at least from my ears, ever being like right up in our face. It just kind of moves creepily, just kind of passes around. You know, like I think that's kind of cool. And then the I like the fills from the drum beat. Sure, the way that Curtis is singing here is he sounds tired here. He sounds like, I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, he just sounds like just saying the words. And that's their style, once again, whether you like it or not. But it does work for what they're going for in here. And I think that's kind of cool. There was something else I was going to say, and I totally forgot it. There was one more thing I had meant to point out about this, but now I don't remember what it was. I want to say it was about the guitar. What was it? I really like the riff, but there was something with it. Now I'm not remembering what it was. Oh, and then during the verse, like the guitar is just kind of muted. I think he's palm muting it and just. So I like how that muted palm kind of holds this tension because you know the notes are there, you know the chords are being struck, but of course they're muted. But when the chorus or the pre-chorus, whatever it is, starts coming around, that's when you start to hear that riff coming. And every time it comes forward. That's what I was going to mention, the contrast between the muted and the unmuted. Okay, let's look at the lyrics. This is a crisis I knew had to come, destroying the balance I'd kept, doubting, unsettling, and turning around, wondering what will come next. Is this the role that you wanted to live? I was foolish to ask for so much. Without the protection and infancy's guard, it all falls apart at first touch. So the song is Passover. I mean, you even see it up here, oops. You even see it right here, I guess. Obviously, so it has biblical references in here, which I think is kind of interesting because I'm viewing it as the writer of the song, I'm assuming Curtis, writing this for himself, but comparing himself to the Israelites in here. So, like, for example, this is a crisis I knew had to come, destroying the balance I'd kept. Let me see if I get my my biblical knowledge correct. Israelites, slaves to the Egyptians. That was the balance, right? Eventually, Israelites are like, I'm out of here. The Egyptians didn't like that. They chased them, whole parting of the sea. Okay, so when he says, I'm pointing, but let me use my mouse. When he says, the crisis had to come, that's the act of, I knew I had to change the status quo. I had to rise up, destroying the balance that he'd kept. No longer a slave, now having to escape, right? Doubting, unsettling, turning around, wondering what will come next. So I feel like he's comparing himself, like I said, to this particular situation of, okay, I need to make a move. And yeah, I'm going to have doubts. I'm going to be unsettled, but I got to do it, Watching the reel as it comes to a close, so almost like watching a film, brutally taking its time. People who change for no reason at all, it's happening all the time. Can I go on with this train of events? Disturbing and purging my mind, back out of my duties when all's said and done, I know that I'll lose every time. So perhaps he's scared that if he does make this change, if he does try to change, his position, that he'll fail. He says he knows he'll lose every time. Moving along in our God-given ways, safety is sat by the fire. Sanctuary from these feverish smiles, left with a mark on the door. Is this the gift that I wanted to give? Forgiven forgets what they teach. Or pass through the deserts and wastelands once more, and watch as they drown by the beach. Okay, so this is all definitely Bible references. So, safety is sat by the fire, sanctuary from this feverish smiles. Oh God. Let me see if I get my timeline correct. So when I see safety sat by the fire, I think of the burning bush. And that's, I don't know timeline. Moses talking to God through the bush. Gotcha. Sanctuary from these feverish smiles, left with a mark on the door. That is the Passover. Oh God, here we go. Where you had to mark your door with, or the Israelites had to mark their, if I'm thinking correctly, mark their door with blood. If they didn't, God or God's angels, someone would come by, kill their firstborn. Not cool, but that's what happened. Forgiven forgets what they teach. Of course, now bringing it back to church, or pass through the deserts and wastelands once more. Wandering in the desert, right? Like either forgive and forget, or you end up wandering in the wilderness. See? And watch as they drown by the beach. Something like that. And once again, he says, this is the crisis I knew had to come. And wondering what will come next. So he knows it's coming. He's going to have his own personal Passover in a sense. However that relates to his personal life. And yes, he's going to have doubts. He's going to have inhibitions, but he's got to do it. It's going to happen one way or another. It's going to find you. It's going to get you. Let's move on to the next track, which is Colony. Let me just play the last few seconds here really quick of Passover with that snappy ending. Just kind of slows down into it.
As she lays asleep, she takes him in her arms.
Jumps back on with the bass scratching.
Your God in his wisdom took you by.
The main bloodline of this song, I think, sounds so uncomfortable. I think the way that the bass and guitar, especially, how they ride each other, for the most part during the intro and the verse, It sounds so like, I can't think of any other word except uncomfortable. It sounds like awkward. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean like purposely awkward. So Sumner and Hook, like, they just have this interesting thing how they stack on top of each other. It's made more interesting because of what Morris is doing on the drums. His drumming I really enjoy in this album so far, especially the use of the fills, like at the end of each bar and every measure to bring it back around. His drum during the verse, even as it starts off, it kind of makes this whole thing feel so dislocated and disjointed. Like, there's something so off-putting about the way the bass and guitar together with the pattern specifically from Morris and how they go together. Like, obviously they work, but there's something about it that feels like it shouldn't. I just think that is so cool how they capture this kind of atmosphere, and in such an empty atmosphere, because the whole album, and it's what I expect from Joy Division, has this kind of lack of atmosphere, but a lack of it because they're leaving a lot of space beyond, what they're putting down. I just think that what they were doing was really interesting to listen to. I have no idea what this song's about. A cry for help, a hint of anesthesia. The sound from broken homes we used to always meet here. As he lays asleep, she takes him in her arms. Some things I have to do, but I don't mean you no harm. So I think of a mother taking her baby away from a broken home. The sound of broken homes we always used to meet here. Some things I have to do, I don't mean no harm. Like, I think she's escaping with a baby from a broken home. I think. I don't know. A worried parent's glance, a kiss, a last goodbye. Hands him the bag she packed, the tears she tries to hide. A cruel wind that bows down to our lunacy and leaves him standing cold here in this colony. Okay, so maybe it's not a baby, but a young child. Because she wouldn't give a baby a bag. So she's leaving. She escaped. This is my mind canon. This is the story I'm building. She escapes a broken home, a place of abuse with her child. Maybe she can't escape for whatever reason, but she can at least give a future to her child. So she leaves this child, as she says, standing cold in this colony. I can't see why all these confrontations. I can't see why all these dislocations. No family life. This makes me feel uneasy. Stood alone here in the colony. So now we're getting a point of view from this child that's been left alone in this colony. Dear God, in his wisdom took you by the hand. God in his wisdom made you understand in this colony. I'm not sure. Like I said, that's as far as I think this song is about in some capacity. Now, is this written from a personal point of view? Is this autobiographical for someone in the band, perhaps Ian? Or in some way, is this how he felt? That maybe he was abandoned, even though there may have been, deeper reasons behind it. Obviously, as it's assumed here, this mother is escaping and giving her child a better life, even though hard as it may be to leave him there. Or what is the colony? Let's stop thinking physical. Let's stop thinking literal. What could the colony represent? Some sort of sanctuary, some sort of safety. But where? I don't know. That I don't know. Let's go ahead and move on into the next track here, which is going to also be the final track on this particular side of the album. And that is going to be A Means to an End. I'm just going to back it up a little bit. Here we go. I like that bass line. I like that. I like how prominent the bass here is. That's just the tape just running out at the end. That's the record just stopping to a halt when the music just slows down. I like that effect. I like that a lot. Okay, one thing I really like in here is Curtis's delivery. Not a ton different than what we've heard before, but he sounds a little bit more fresh here. And I really like the ending of this track where he just repeatedly says, I put my trust in you, I put my trust in you. And even without context of the rest of the song, I think that stands out well on its own because of the way that he says it. Like, even previously in the chorus, you can see there, like the way he's saying it, he's like starting high, then he goes lower, and the last part, it's almost from a place of sadness. It's almost from a place of like, I put my trust in you, and this is how you pay me. I put my trust in you. I just can't get over the fact that you would betray me in this respect, whatever respect that may be. And I just thought that was really nice. This song also felt a little bit more like uplifting, so way too strong of a word, but it just sounded like it had a little bit more life behind it. And when I say that, I don't mean like the album has not had life, or like there's some tracks that are just very empty and kind of works with the empty space and the negative space that it has. This track doesn't have that much negative space, and I like how for Joy Division, it has a little bit of a brighter atmosphere to end this particular side of the album. A legacy so far removed, one day will be improved. Eternal rights we left behind, we were the better kind. Two the same, set free too. I always looked to you. We fought for good, stood side by side. Our friendship never died. On stranger waves, the lows and highs, our vision touched the sky. Immortalist with points to prove. I put my trust in you. So two people, very strong connection, very strong bond, and they're just living their life. A house somewhere on foreign soil where aging lovers call. Is this your goal, your final needs, where dogs and vultures eat? Committed, still I turn to go. I put my trust in you. A means to an end. So was this strong connection, was this friendship, this relationship the means, and now the end comes and there's a betrayal in the end? Or is this someone who has reservations about the actions of that other person, but they're putting their faith in this other person and saying, you know what, I'll do what you say, or do what you want to do. Committed, still I turn to go. So I think no, he's feeling betrayed and he turns the other way and abandons or leaves this other person because of whatever their goal, their final needs were. So he's feeling betrayed because obviously from the first two verses, our friendship never died. We fought for good side by side. Our vision touched the sky. They were all in the same wavelength, but now wavelengths are completely off. Anyways, that ends the first side of the album. That ends this particular half. And I hope that at this point, how long are we in? Almost an hour in. I hope that you guys are having a lovely one. Now, before we move on, I like to know, if you guys are still watching at the halfway point, or if you dipped out early, which is completely okay. But I just have a question, not for you guys, not for you guys. Something I'm Googling right now for those of you who are still around. Hold on. I'm typing it in, and I'll show you what I'm typing in really quickly. Hold on. I gotta mute it. Nope. Don't play anything. Just hold on. Okay. Hold on. Let me full screen this so you guys can see. We were going to find out. Fabric on a clay sculpture. I muted it because I don't need any extra copyright stuff. But, look. So, okay, you have to feel how it is. This is so interesting.
Picture, or it'd be an actual mannequin with clothing on it.
A mannequin with clothing on? That can't be how they did it originally. That can't be how they did it. Maybe it is. I don't know. Adding bands. That is so cool. I want to see final product. Give me. That's pretty cool. How you can make the wrinkles and the folds in that. I think that's interesting. Obviously, this isn't the exact same. I just searched really quickly a random video. But that is really, really interesting. How they do that. I was pulling up a second video really quick. I think it's the same person. Isn't that interesting? And obviously, we're looking at this, but how cool is it to see those ancient things that we had saw before? Okay. Now, I told you if you stuck around, we were going to figure it out, All right, let's move on to the next track. What you guys are here for and not for learning about sculpture. We're flipping the album over. are listening to the next track here, which is going to be Heart and Soul. Here we go. I kind of woke you up. Like just chords, just a couple struck. Aside from Atrocity, I think that this is my favorite song on the album. I love how drenched in atmosphere it is and reverb. It all sounds like it's recorded in like a cavern or some empty cave, which I guess is another word for a cavern. It all sounds like it just has all this space to play around with, especially when Ian comes in. When Ian comes in, like that echo that's on his voice, it just adds this nuance to his singing style or his speaking style, depending on how you look at it, his delivery style. And one thing I love is in the lyrics, every time that he repeats the chorus, I love how he sings it, heart and soul, one will burn. Like, I didn't sing it right. But the heart and soul part, when he sings those 2 words, or 3 words, I can't count, it sounds melodic and light and floaty and hopeful. But then every time he says, one will burn, it sounds so struck down with despair and, like, obviously, heart and soul. If you just look at those 3 words together, in any other context, positive connotation, heart and soul. Then, if you look at the phrase, one will burn, in any context, it kind of has a negative, more inflammatory meaning to it. So I like how just in those lines, he captures the meaning so perfectly in the delivery. And then the use of synth in this track, I love it. It just is this, I use this word a lot, but it's this melodic and musical fog that just sits at the ground level of the music. Never really coming up, no prog, Tony Banks solos. It just kind of sits as a fog, as a layer. And everything comes above that. I love how the guitar comes in right above from Sumner, and like it just plays with that. That's just really fantastic. Love the drum groove on here from Morris as well. It's a relatively simple drum groove, but like I can play it too. And then I love the quick hits on the snare, and especially the moments where that snare is, he's either hitting it harder or he's hitting a different snare, or he's hitting a different snare that has a different microphone that's hitting a different production on it or something. Either way, I like how when he does that, it's like these moments that snap you out of this trance that, to me, this song lulls you into and wakes you up wherever it's waking you up into. Instincts that can still betray us, a journey that leads to the sun. Soulless and bent on destruction, a struggle between rights and wrong. Sometimes when R's and W's are close to each other, it gets me every time. You take my place in the showdown, I'll observe with a pitiful eye. I'll humbly ask for forgiveness, a request well beyond you and I. Like there's this struggle, there's this fight. He says, you take my place, I'll observe with a pitiful eye, like, sorry, I have pity on you. And I'll ask for forgiveness, but I ain't trading places back with you. No takebacks. Heart and soul, one will burn. An abyss that laughs at creation, a circus complete with all the fools, which I think is a reference back to Atrocity. Foundations that lasted for the ages, then ripped apart at the roots. Beyond all this good is the terror, the grip of a mercenary hand. When savagery turns all good reason, there's no turning back, no last stand. Once you cross that Rubicon, once you cross that line, there's no turning back. Just as he kind of said here, you took my place and I'll ask for forgiveness, but I ain't going back. And I like how he even says a request well beyond you and I. Forgiveness isn't even mine to afford you. You got to go higher for that. Existence, well, what does it matter? I exist on the best terms I can. The past is now part of my future. The present is well out of hand. What a great line. I feel like, I don't know exactly what, in some way, either in going through life or... Yeah, let's just take it like that. In going through life, sacrifices have to be made, and sacrifices will be made, and you hope that it's for the betterment of your future. As he says in, Foundations that last for ages, they're ripped apart at the roots. Hopefully, you're doing that and it's a good thing. But he also says it has more of a nihilistic approach, beyond all this good is the terror. There's no turning back. And so I think like in getting through life, you can either choose your heart or your soul, but you got to sell one of them. Both aren't going to make it out alive. Something like that. I don't know. I like it though. Next track, that is going to be 24 Hours. Here we go. I love that groove.
Put into perspective, try so hard to find. Let's take a ride out, see what we can find. How it's all gone wrong. Gotta find some.
I do not want to speak too soon, but I have to because this is a reaction. I need you guys to see my initial reaction. If this side of the album continues in the respect of this song and the previous one, this could easily be like, I don't know, just a great side of the album and better than the first, which was good. But the first two tracks here are so, to me, different, but also, of course, the same. But they feel like progressed and expanded. This one is the most dynamic song on the album so far. I love how it shifts from these quiet, kind of mid-paced atmospherics, which I love the guitar from Sumner, love the drumming as well from Morris, and then how it explodes into something much more rapturous and headlong and with speed and aggression. But there's also, lyrically, from what I can tell, this mix of regrets and looking back at things and wishing you had done things differently. I was looking at some of the lyrics, but that's what I kind of get out of it. And the back and forth between in those dynamics, in the loud and the quiet, I think are expertly done in this particular track. And it's done very well. And if the last two songs hit the same highs that these two songs have, I'm not pitting an album against itself, first side versus second side. But so this is Permanence, Love's Shattered Pride. What once was innocence turned on its side. A cloud hangs over me, marks every move, deep in the memory of what once was love. So now the love was apparently temporary, but the heartbreak is permanent. Oh, how I realized how I wanted time, put into perspective, tried so hard to find. Just for one moment, thought I'd found my way. Destiny unfolded, I watched it slip away. Thought, this time I have love, I have it right in my hand. And then slowly, just like sand, slipping away. Excessive flashpoints beyond all reach. Solitary demands for all I'd like to keep. Let's take a ride out, see what we can find. A valueless collection of hopes and past desires. So, I feel like he's talking to himself when he says, let's find a ride out, see what we can find. Is there anything worth salvaging from this relationship, from this broken relationship? Is there anything worth salvaging or going back for? And he says, a valueless collection of hopes and past desires. So the answer is no. I never realized the lengths I'd have to go, all the darkest corners of a sense I didn't know. Just for one moment, I heard somebody call, looked beyond the day in hand, there's nothing there at all. So he's feeling very hopeless. Looking, into the future, seeing nothing there. Now that I've realized how it's all gone wrong, gotta find some therapy. This treatment takes too long. So the question is, what is this treatment? He was, in a sense, maybe not literally self-medicating, but just trying to get over it on his own. And then he even says and admits, it's all gone wrong and I need some help. Deep in the heart of where sympathy held sway, gotta find my destiny before it gets too late. So I actually like this final resolution that he has, where he was feeling so hopeless previously. He says, gotta find my destiny before it's too late. He has to find his purpose, his road, whatever that may be. So I actually like how this ends on a more positive, self-reflective, gotta make my own way kind of note. And I was thinking about the song. Sometimes I go quiet because I'm reading and I forgot I got to read out loud. I got not to myself. I was just looking at the title 24 Hours and trying to think of like how that relates. And I view it as a lot can happen in 24 hours. You could, you could start out in love, romance with a relationship. By the 12th hour, that's dissolved and gone. And hopefully by the 23rd hour, you're finding some sort of resolution to move forward and to find hope. That's how I view it. Like, in time, a lot can happen. But I could be wrong. Next track, which is Eternal. Yeah, okay, sorry. My Spotify had moved. All right, it's Eternal. The Eternal, I should say. Here we go. Second side. There's those insects again.
Though these years make me older.
It's such a great line. Okay, I just wanted to see how it would lead into Decades. We'll go back and play the the transition there. Okay, I'm gonna take my headphones off for this, even though we still have one more song left. The Eternal is one of the best songs I've heard from Joy Division. Haven't heard a lot, but I've heard enough. One of the best songs that I've heard from Joy Division. I don't want to say the best, but one of the best. Very easily top 3. I mentioned before, if the second side continues on in a certain vein, it's going to be incredible. The Eternal, I mean, obviously with what I just said, not only continues that, but this is going uphill. The album, I've enjoyed the whole album, right? But now with this context, the album has gone like this. Let me try and line it up so you guys can see. All right, there we go. Then it hits the second side right here. Boom! Just like that! This has gotten so much better as we've been listening to it. I think The Eternal is one of the most beautifully depressing songs that I've heard in a long time. Because it is slow, like a procession. It does have a funeral-like dirge movement to it. But it is just gorgeous to me. The piano is so welcoming here. How does, at this point in the album, the piano comes in and it brightens everything up in the most, is dreary even a word? In the most dreary of songs that we've heard. This captures such a wonderful contrast as the second to final song on the album that hasn't been explored to this depth previously. This is, wow. That's all I have to say. I mean, I have a little bit more to say. But I love the drums, the electronic beat and groove that comes in. I love how it opens and periodically comes in. I don't know what they are, but this, to me, it's like this electronic insect buzzing kind of sound. Where, if you're looking at the lyrics and just how I view it, I view this person watching a procession, watching a funeral happen, watching a memorial happen from the sidelines. He says he's at the gate. So he's watching this from a distance of sorts. And I think of like, the only I guess relation or comparison I can make is to my father's funeral / burial and everything. And it's in summer. So that sound, that, that electronic, the electronic kind of insect sound just reminds me of, I guess, the hissing of the summer lawns. Like, where you just hear, there's always this certain summery buzz that's happening. And it's insects, it's sprinklers. I don't know. It's a kind of sound that you just hear like during the summer and heat. And that's what I view this as. Like amongst the silence, the deadly silence, after he says the shouting's over, after, once again, I just kind of, I guess, think of, my funeral, I'm sure many others, where people are crying out and there's yelling, of course, emotions. And then after all that, you're left with the silence. And then what fills that silence? What imagery? What thoughts are going through your head in that silence? That is what I'm kind of seeing and reading and thinking with these with the lyrics and the music. just truly incredible. I think that this is so impressive. I don't know why I took you guys off the lyrics. We're going right back into them. Procession moves on. The shouting is over. Praise to the glory of loved ones now gone. Talking aloud as they sit round their tables, scattering flowers washed down by the rain. So now you're getting, of course, moving on. You know, the flowers. I mean, you could easily go into what was once alive, flowers picked, now the petals scattered, of course, to memorialize and to pay honor to those passing, now washed down by the rain, gone as anything else, impermanence. Stood by the gate at the foot of the garden, watching them pass like clouds in the sky, tried to cry out in the heat of the moment, possessed by a fury that burns from inside. So I truly just think the literal of someone watching a procession or something, and they want to cry out too. They want to cry out in the heat of the moment, you know, the fury. Why is this person gone? Cry like a child, though these years make me older. I think that this is a cool line. Cry like a child, though these years make me older. Like, I mean, I guess on the one hand, the obvious, like you're crying like a child, like a baby, but you're older. Like, you know, you're experiencing this older than a child. With children, my time is so wastefully spent. A burden to keep, though their inner communion, except like a curse, an unlucky deal. I view this as, with children, my time is so wastefully spent. This is, I'm probably putting this more blunt than he means, but I just can't think of any other way to say it, so I just got to say what I think. Like, why spend time with other people? Why spend time with children who, unfortunately, are also going to, at some point, you know, die? A burden to keep, though they're in your communion, except like a curse, an unlucky deal. Like that curse, not only obviously is applied to children, but everyone, in that everyone's going to die. Played by the gate at the foot of the garden, my view stretches out from the fence to the wall. No words could explain, no actions determine, just watching the trees and the leaves as they fall. So, can I tell you something? He could have watched this procession, and now he's just looking at the trees and comparing, of course, leaves falling from a tree to the death. Very obvious comparison. Very obvious comparison. Let's take this one step further. What if the whole time he's not watching a literal funeral or a literal procession? What if the whole time he's actually just watching leaves falling from a tree, which makes him think very deeply about death, to the point that he feels like watching the leaves falling off of a tree in fall, winter, is like watching a funeral procession.
Please clap.
I'm just putting that out there. I like this song a lot. This is good. This is good stuff. I feel like there was one more thing I was going to say, but now I forgot what it was. There was something I was going to mention about this whole album, as about the atmosphere of it all, but I don't remember exactly what I was going to say. Maybe it'll come to me after we listen to the final song. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's move on to the final song on the album. If this one continues, then you know. Let's skip ahead a little bit in the Eternal, and here we go. Let's see how Decades closes it out.
We knocked on the doors of hell's dark.
It's a very gothic touch, huh? I think it's like Mellotron. Sounds like it. For sure. Joy Division, Closer. Incredible album, but can I just say to myself and in my opinion, how amazing the second side of this album is compared to the first. And once again, I'm reiterating, it's not like I didn't like the first. I was having a great time. But when we shifted over, it's like, I don't know, it was like, I don't want to say a completely different band because that's way too, let's not put exaggeration or hyperbole on it. But it was just, I don't know, it just felt like a true progression, growth, going somewhere completely different, or just felt different. I think the second side of this album was so amazing. Decades is a wonderful end to the album because it hits all those same marks as we've been progressing through the whole album, but once again in a much more, to me, progressive fashion. Especially, I love once again the use of all the synths. Sounds like Mellotron's in there as well, and I like how now, instead of, like I said before, like it's not just a little fog down here. No, it's a big old fog. It is part of the song and part of the music. And while I don't want to go as far as to say that it adds a symphonic touch, it does add a symphonic kind of filter to everything with the inclusion and the forefront inclusion, I should say, of the keyboards and those sounds. Absolutely wonderful. I like the reflective way that Ian's singing here. Where have we been? Where are we going? Like, the whole album has done a great job tonally and lyrically of these themes of regret, loss, but also hope and moving forward. The album has gone from, moments of soul-crushing depression into moments of vital reaffirmation and life and putting faith into yourself and moving forward. And I think the way that the band has handled those themes is excellent. And I'm just going to say it again, in case you didn't get it. I think the second side of this album is easily 5 out of 5. Like, if I'm rating the whole album, I don't know. But if I'm taking the two sides and I'm rating them separately, first side, 4. Second side, 5. So easily. It's not even like a comparison to me. And I really like how in this track, once again, to me, this is another track that makes great use of dynamics. The way that it goes back to emptiness in the verse with a little fog, and then it springs to life with all those the array of synth and sound that comes in to cover it over. It's an absolutely wonderful way to end the album. Here are the young men, the weight on their shoulders. Here are the young men, well, where have they been? We knocked on the doors of hell's darker chamber, pushed to the limit we dragged ourselves in. Watched from the wings as the scenes were replaying, we saw ourselves now as we never had seen. Portrayal of the trauma and degeneration, the sorrows we suffered and never were free. So first, here are the young men, the weight on the shoulders, where have they been? And it says that they searched in hell's darkest chambers, and now they're seeing themselves. So, in a sense, perhaps this is a representation of their personal hell. They're seeing themselves in a way that they've never seen themselves before. Perhaps they thought they were doing right things, or they were moral or whatever, but now they see themselves and they're like, ooh, maybe we weren't. Portrayal of the trauma and the degeneration, the sorrows we suffered and never were free. Never free of the sorrows that they suffered. Where have they been? Weary inside, now our hearts lost forever. Can't replace the fear or the thrill of the chase. Each ritual showed up the door for our wanderings. Open, then shut, then slammed in our face. Where have they been? So, I mean, with the title Decades, I'm thinking about time moving forward, and the decades just fly by. Now our hearts lost forever. Can't replace the fear or the thrill of the chase. Like the excitement, you can't replace that. Each ritual showed up the door for our wanderings. Like the opportunities of life are these rituals showing up, representative of doors. And of course, they're open, then shut, and then slammed in our face, like aggressively closed on you. Where have they been? I'm not 100% sure what this song is about. I do get the idea of where has the time gone? Where has life gone? Where, all these opportunities, all these open doors that I once had now aren't just shut, but aggressively shut, and there's no turning back. Where have they been? I replaced that line with where have they gone? Where has the time gone? Maybe. Nothing down here. That's what I don't want to click on the annotations. I'm just taking my own guess. I'm just taking my own guess with it. Either way, this was an incredible album to listen to. And it's not often that, like, one side of the album, to me, just completely overshadows the other side. But, I mean, if I'm taking the album title Closer, it closes out magnificently. Let's go ahead and look at some of the facts about this album, which I actually meant to do halfway when we flipped the album, in a sense, but I forgot about it. So, let's see. The songs on Closer were drawn from two distinct periods. The earlier guitar-driven compositions were written during the latter half of '79, which is the whole first side, basically. All were played live during that year, with some being recorded for various radio sessions. The album's other songs were written in 1980. Okay. That explains a lot in why the two sides sound completely different. You know what it reminds me of now? It reminds me of David Bowie's Low. How the first side is kind of, not straight, for Bowie at that time, straightforward rock, not pop songs, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just songs. The second side is experimental, and it dives into a completely different place. This album kind of does the same. Regarding the album's lyrical content, Sumner recollected, we'd go to rehearsals, sit around and talk about really banal things. We'd do that until we couldn't talk about banal things anymore. Then we'd pick up our instruments and record into a little cassette player. We didn't talk about the music or the lyrics very much. We never analyzed it. It says, while we were working on the album, Ian said to me that doing this album felt very strange because he felt that all his words were writing themselves. He also said that he had this terrible claustrophobic feeling that he was in a whirlpool and being pulled down, drowning. It says it was produced by Martin Hannett. We read some of this already. In some capacity, the album cover. There we go. We talked about that as well. The album reached number 6 on the UK albums chart. It also peaked at number 3 in New Zealand. It was named Album of the Year. The album, along with Unknown Pleasures and Still, was remastered and re-released in 2007. All right, we don't care about that. So there's your interesting information for the album. Who else has Martin Hannett produced for? Joy Division, never heard of the Durruti Column. A Certain Ratio, never heard of them. Magazine, okay, we know them. Never heard of them. Heard of them. Heard of them. Heard of them. All right, so we know a few of the bands and a few of the people he's produced for. Here's a big old list. Trying to see if anyone else kind of stands out, but at least initially, not seeing anything that really stands out in here. But either way, incredible album. The Eternal is definitely my song of the album. But besides that, the whole second half of the album is really just incredible. Like, truly, truly incredible. Really enjoyed that. Thank you guys so much for the recommendation and for suggesting that I listen to this album. I hope that you enjoyed it. Please, if you didn't in the very beginning, press the like button. Share this video if you want to share it with people. Like I said before, you can support the channel and what I do on Patreon for as little as $2 a month. You don't have to, but it's a choice. We're running up on an hour and 50 minutes, so thank you for chilling with me. Thank you for relaxing. I didn't even finish totally. This is a big mug. I don't know if you can tell. Here's my phone. If that gives you comparisons to size or whatever. Here's my microphone. You guys can see it. It's a big mug. This is a fat mug. I was originally going to make hot chocolate. I don't really drink hot chocolate, but I was going to make some, and I had gotten these like huge marshmallows, and I was going to do that, but I realized I didn't have milk, and I'm not going to make hot chocolate with water. Are you crazy? That's just madness. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sticking around. I really hope that you enjoyed the video and spending some time with me. That's it. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you all later, guys. Bye. You know the second side of this album was crazy, though. If you like the first side of this album more than the second side, I want to hear from you. No, really, I want to hear from you.